everybody, and welcome to Assassins of Language Learning. Well, welcome back if you've been here before, and if you're a first-timer, welcome for the first time. This series is all about tackling different motivation killers, but in thinking about that through the years, because it's been 2 years since the last episode, it's more than just a killer of motivation. It can kill your desire to want to study another language or learn a language because it just discourages you so much. And this topic, I find personally, is different from the other topics that we've spoken about in the past. However, before getting into what that topic is, I would like to introduce this time's guest. So, Jonathan, can you introduce yourself, talk a little bit about the languages that you study, as well as your YouTube channel? Just give us a little bit of a background of who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Jonathan Seabolt. I run the YouTube channel Seabolt Speaks. At Twitter, Instagram, anything is Seabolt Speaks there. Basically, I am a huge language lover. Generally, I'm a language dabbler, but recently, for the first time in my life, I have finally decided to get overly serious about a language, which is Japanese, which has always been my passion. It can be misleading. I say that I've studied Japanese off and on for 10 years, but I've studied more Japanese in the last 7 months than the previous 9.5 years combined, easily, by far. So I think I'm going to stop saying that I've studied Japanese for 10 years because it makes me sound like I'm maybe not as good at language learning. I don't know. But yeah, I've studied, if you can name a language, I've studied it at least for a day or two. I almost promise you, maybe not some more obscure stuff, but languages that I've studied. I do have a B1 certificate in Spanish, although with probably over a year of not using it, not sure where that would be. I studied Esperanto to a conversational level, but again, I haven't spoken Esperanto in 2 years. I went to their whole like summer camp thing that they do, like all that stuff, met some really cool people through it. But again, I can't say that I speak it. Those are probably the languages that I've studied the most outside of Japanese, and Japanese just always been where my passion is. And, you know, I would study it, and it absolutely cripples your ability to want to learn anything because of its complexities. But I always come back, and this time I came back, and I've been back for good. So, yeah.
That's wonderful. And for anybody who has not followed him yet, because you're definitely going to want to, his progress is just so interesting to watch. I mean, I'm enjoying watching it so far, and you recently put out your first video of you speaking in Japanese after 6 months. So
Trying to, yeah.
Very enjoyable.
Yeah, if you follow me, I'm not a master. And don't follow me because you think I'm going to have these great tips on how to learn. My channel is about my documentation. I'm not a seasoned polyglot teaching you secrets. I'm uploading videos of my progress. So.
And you strive to be the most honest language learning channel on YouTube, which I do want to throw that in there because you're humanizing language learning one video at a time, essentially.
Yeah. Anybody, well, that's one thing I've always been really negative about, the reading scripts off of a teleprompter and then saying that you speak 8 or 10 languages, or if you have these polyglot video, look, there's some great people that do those videos. It's just not for me. You know, I'm not going to count to 10 in French and then say that I can speak French. Like that's just not my thing.
Yeah, and that is completely respectable. So very cool what you're doing. I've been enjoying seeing your channel grow through time, and I'm excited to see where it continues to go.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Actually, fun. I found your channel through, I know I'm not trying to sidetrack this here, but I found your channel because of a language that I was studying at the time, which was Polish, where you're learning Polish through Duolingo.
Yeah, the Duolingo challenge. I remember that. And then you did a little bit of your own challenge on your channel as well.
Yep. Tried to. Failed miserably, but yeah, tried to.
Super cool stuff, though. Now, this time, the topic is unrealistic expectations. And this one I feel is different from the past ones because in the past, things like laziness or busyness or comparison, those to me personally, I feel are very obvious. You can tell that there are issues that you're facing. Whereas with unrealistic expectations, I feel like you have to do some digging in order to find out that that is the root cause of an issue that you're experiencing. And the thing about unrealistic expectations is that because they're unrealistic, most likely you're not going to meet those expectations. And when you don't, you're going to feel discouraged. And if you have too much discouragement long term, eventually you're going to want to quit learning a language because you feel like, what is the point?
Right.
Now, when it comes to something like these assassins of language learning, I feel like it's easy to blame whatever the issue is or yourself.
Mhm.
But with this, you do have to do quite a bit of digging to get to the root of the problem. And I feel like if you don't do that digging, that can actually feed this victim mentality mindset. So
Mhm.
this one's going to be a very interesting topic. And I wanted to start off by asking you, there's a lot of talk in the language community online about goal setting when it comes
Mhm.
to learning a language, especially successfully, that you have to set these goals and then you meet them, and that's how you progress.
Right.
Now, do you see a similarity or a link between goal setting and expectations? Do you think they're the same? Do you think they're different? And how so?
I think I think goal setting is a really good idea. I just think that you have to be smart about your goals. Again, the part of the reason I created my channel was because everybody is like, look at my awesome 3-month progress. And again, you write a script and you sound like, you sound perfect, right? Because you write it, and there's nothing wrong with writing. If you wrote it, that's fine. But like, if you like, I feel like it sets a lot of people up for failure because they're like, I want to be this awesome person, right? And I think the problem is we set goals, but we don't set our goals. We set goals that other people have set for themselves, and then by in turn, we're comparing ourselves to others and where they're at. I think in terms of goal setting, I think it should be more realistic things, such as, I mean, even something like watch an hour of television in your target language a day. Maybe that's a little unrealistic, maybe every couple of days, whatever. Or read X amount of pages if you're reading a book. I use Link all the time, so I've set a goal for reading 3,000 words a day in Japanese. I think those are the kind of goals that we need to set. Obviously, there is that long-term goal of eventual F word fluency, whatever your idea of that word is. But I think the short-term goals and goals that are achievable, right? Because like we always say, I want to be this, I want to be A1, or I want, Japanese, I want to be N5, N4, whatever. But what does that mean? Like there's a broad scale of what it means. But I think setting a goal that is achievable and for a fact you did it, like again, read 3,000 words a day, that that's something that can be done. And here's the thing, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you read 3,000 words a day, you're going to progress. You're exposing yourself to the language. So I think that's the kind of goals that people need to set. And I also think that that's why goal setting can be bad, because that's not the goals that people set.
Yeah, I feel like there's definitely a difference between a desire and a goal and an expectation, because the desire is more of the broad type of thing that you're looking to accomplish. So I want
Yeah.
to be fluent in whatever language, or I want to be like a native speaker. And then I feel like those desires become the expectation
Yeah.
because that's what they're reaching for. Then they expect to have whatever that level is, or whatever it is that they're striving for in the first
Mm-hmm.
place. And then their goals, normally they try to reflect the ultimate desire, but when it's unrealistic, then the goals are basically impossible to meet. Now,
Yeah.
do you have any examples of, which I know you do because I saw it in one of your videos, but personal examples that you feel comfortable with sharing of unrealistic expectations or goals that you've personally set in your language journey?
I mean, I've set a lot. I've set a lot of unrealistic goals in my life with languages, or in the last 4 years, 3 years, 4 years. I know that I tried to do a series of like completing Duolingo in 90 days on Spanish, and I think a lot of it, especially as a smaller YouTube channel, you set these unrealistic goals because you want a clickbait title, which I know we talked about this a little bit before. But those are videos. It's not that I regret them, but that's not the audience that I want to pay. I don't care. Like, I don't want to be a 90-day Duolingo guy or something like that. So I've definitely set goals like that. Or, having, I know that the fluent in 3 month thing, or is the whole have a 15-minute conversation in 90 days. And so, I mean, I've tried to do that kind of stuff. And, thinking about that, I think also kind of helps you realize what your goals need to be, right? Like, for example, if I was learning Tagalog, and I was like, I want to have a 15-minute conversation within the next 90 days. There's no, who am I going to, I don't even know anybody who speaks Tagalog. And I know that you're probably like, well, you would learn a language that someone's, I don't know anybody that speaks Japanese. So technically, why am I learning Japanese? So like, I don't know. I've definitely, I'm trying to think of more so recent ones with Japanese. Cause like, I know that I've set them even in the last 7 months. I'm just trying to think. I've been through so many ups and downs with it. It's hard to keep track of everything. But finishing certain Anki decks or something like that, right? Like I want to finish the Tongo N5 deck, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to do it by this date. Why? Like, what happens if you don't finish it by that date? Who cares? Obviously, I'm not saying if it can be done in a month, take a year, but if you're not done in a month and it takes 2 months, who cares? You should technically be studying or interacting with this language for the rest of your life if you love it. You know, like, so who cares if it's in a month? Just enjoy it. Just enjoy the journey. I hope I answered. I don't know if I answered that question or not, but
You did. Yes. Thank you. And one thing that came to mind actually was a video that you did about your struggles in Japanese recently. I think this was about a month or two ago.
Mhm.
And you were talking about how you set a goal to do 25 hours a week instead of 20.
Oh yeah. That immediately failed because then I started. I said because a friend of mine named Mark, who runs the channel Language Come Up, started a challenge, and actually Lamont from Days of French and Swedish has done it as well, where you do 40 hours of study in a week. Now, I had basically told Mark, I was like, I'm going to do this challenge, but I'm going to adapt it to me. I have a full-time job. I have a wife and a child. I can't spend 40 hours. I said, but I'm going to try to get 20 hours of just passive listening while I'm at work or whatever, and then 20 hours of active study. And I was working really well. And then I said at the 25, and then it immediately became like, why? Like 20 hours a week is awesome. Why? Like, I mean, sure, you can advance faster, maybe, I don't know, but what was wrong with 20? Why up it? And then it became this, that was actually right at the start of my burnout and kind of fall from Japanese for a little bit. Cause it was absolutely an unrealistic, cause I said I was going to do it through the end of the year. And that was, it was like a month or two ago. So yeah, that was not a good idea.
And you've shared a couple of examples that have been personal to you, but you've also been somebody who's been actively participating in the online language community. Have you seen other examples, or what other examples come to mind of unrealistic expectations that people might have about learning a language, such as what we discussed before about trying to reach that native speaker level without defining what that is?
Yeah, I think, well, there's a lot of people, for example, in the Japanese community that want to sound like a native, and I'm not knocking that in the slightest. But, like, to me, I don't understand, especially if you're not going to be moving to Japan or even communicating with Japanese people regularly, why you would spend so much time on it until, I mean, I know that you need to spend time on it before you would need it, but you could spend so much more time adding additional vocabulary or something like that to be able to watch. Cause like the whole thing for me learning Japanese is I'm going to, try to watch some Japanese TV or whatever, like the content. So realistically, now I am going to start doing some speaking practice, but my goal is to understand it. Like that's my entire goal. So, I think setting a goal, especially at the beginning of I want to sound like a native, that's a pretty tall order. Like, let's pump the brakes on that. Let's just get into the language first, and then we'll worry about sounding like a native, because that's such a common thing in the Japanese community right now. Is people will be like, all right, I'm starting Japanese tomorrow, and it's like, all right, what's your goal? I want to sound like a native. Like I would definitely set a shorter goal than that, man, because that's a pretty hard thing to reach.
Yeah, and if people aren't reaching that, and especially that's taking longer than expected, but in some cases never reaching that, then
Yeah.
that can be extremely
Yeah.
discouraging.
How do
And
you feel? I'm not trying to become the interviewer here, but how do you feel about like sounding like a native? Do accents bother you?
they don't bother me personally when it comes to other people. Now, being a perfectionist myself, I do
Gotcha.
struggle with that. I personally, the reason why I don't want to have one is because immediately if somebody can pick out that you speak English natively, then they're
Right.
going to speak to you in English, and that's why it's been an issue for me. And I personally am not confrontational at all. So I would not be the person to say to somebody else, oh, I would prefer to speak in whatever language.
Mm-hmm.
And even though that might not sound confrontational at all, for somebody like me who doesn't like to say things like that to people, that actually is very difficult for me.
Right.
So for me personally, to answer your question, I think it's different for me than it is for other people. Like, if somebody else has an accent, wonderful, and be proud of that and everything. But for myself, I just hold myself to this almost impossible standard
I got you. It makes sense because you're right. As soon as people know you speak English, they're just like, "Yep, nope, we're doing that."
immediately. And it's just very discouraging, which that was another episode of Assassins of Language Learning, because when somebody speaks to you in your native language, and there could be so many reasons for that, and maybe it has nothing to do with the fact that they don't think your level is advanced or anything, but it can come across that way, and
Yeah.
it can just be it can hurt your motivation.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Agree completely.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to these unrealistic expectations that people have, where do you think they can come from? What influences what eventually becomes an expectation for somebody?
Too much YouTube for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Watching people. It's when you see a camera, especially if you just literally search learn Japanese or something, or learn Spanish, learn whatever and you're going to see someone speaking. Well, you see that video, you've known them for 10 seconds. That's great. You don't
Mm-hmm.
know that they have been studying Spanish or Japanese or Finnish or Icelandic, whatever the heck they're studying for 10, 15 years sometimes. And I think, the comparing yourself to others is not the majority of it, but I think that's a big part of it. I also think that I don't know. I think that like we get too far ahead of ourselves, and like you want to understand all this stuff, so you just jump right into like super hard stuff, and then I mean that's a motivation killer, which is something I'm working on. Like I'm working through right now, like going through some stuff on Link, and when I get to a section and like there's multiple, like if it's a 15-word sentence and I don't understand 4 or 5 things, I used to try and just wrap my head around it, and I've finally gotten into this habit where I'll mark the words that, okay, I don't know these words, and I just skip it, and I'll come back to it. Because, of doing, but again, you see these people doing these incredible things and you're like, I want to do that. And that's with everything, right? Not even language learning, you watch basketball. All right, cool. I'm going to be an NBA player. You watch football. I'm going to play in the NFL. You watch soccer. I'm going to play, in the Olympics or whatever. Like, and it's, you set these unrealistic, I'm not saying if you're watching this, you're not going to the NBA, kids. I'm just saying, like, you set these expectations, and it's the comparing yourself to others syndrome.
Exactly. And it can be very motivating to watch other people, but if you're not careful
Yeah.
about just your mind and how much you're consuming and the kind of mindset you have and everything regarding that, then it could easily become something that is actually hurtful to you in the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah, because you'll start dwelling on it, and you'll spend more time researching their secrets of how they learned it versus just actually spending time with the language, which is going to get you where you need to be.
Yeah, and you're not going to have fun in trying to research the quick way, the get rich quick kind
Yeah.
of language learning.
Yeah. I've always said if somebody had a method of how to learn a language in an hour, you would spend 99 hours researching of how to learn in one. If it took 100 hours to learn, you would spend 99 trying to find that secret to learn it in one versus just spending the 100 studying it.
Yeah, before I got into language learning, I was into watching other people who spoke languages. This was back in high school. And I would spend hours and hours just consuming blogs and YouTube videos and everything about how people were learning a language and watching them live the life that I wanted to live and reach the
Right.
goals I wanted to be reaching. And it just, at some point, it was helpful, but after a while, it was just wasting time. It wasn't helpful anymore.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you get so wrapped up in some of the because I mean, it's like a friendship. I know Valeria made the video about our YouTubers replacing your friends, and that, I mean, like, you start watching this and you feel like there's this connection with people and they're your friends. So it's not even then you're looking at advice. You're just like, oh, I wonder what this person's up to today, like, and then you spend so much time watching that versus doing what you need to be doing.
Right, that influencer kind of culture that's become popular now.
Yeah. Yep.
So my next question is, how could people go into language learning with a healthier mindset? In other words, prevention, being able to prevent these unrealistic expectations from forming in the first place.
I think the biggest thing would be setting a realistic time goal. I know everybody wants to do everything as quick as possible. Like I don't know if that's the world way or the American way, but whatever it is, that's what we do. But I think like everybody, wants to get in and they want to study 5 or 6 hours a day and just jump right in. Like, man, take a week studying just a little bit, just do a little bit every day and work yourself up. Cause I'm telling you, if you jump right, like there's some people that can do it. There's documentation of people who have done it, just jumped right in 8 hours a day or whatever, if they have that much time and just killed it. But I mean, that's not a mindset that everybody has. Everybody will say you might get people in this video like, no, you can do that. I'm sure. But I mean, that's not a normal person. Like you have to build that up. Like, I think you have to jump into it slowly and slowly build up, because I think especially when you spend 8 hours, right? And you wake up the next day and then you're not fluent in the language. What are we doing? Build that small little step. And that way it's easier to stick with too. Make sure it's a habit, build the habit, and then you can go, that actually helped me. We can talk about that. I don't know if you have a question about that or anything, but that's part of what helped me get through my burnout was I had a habit built. And so I could work through it versus just being like, all right, we're putting this on the shelf. I'm done with this.
Which is really good. And that is very helpful advice, because I noticed that burnout is a topic that has become suddenly very popular in the language community online. And I think that it's a little bit comforting, but it's also very sad that so many people are able to relate to that's what's trending now on the internet.
Yeah. Well, I know there's two different kind of camps on this. There's burnout. And then I know that there's some people who say, well, you can't get burnout on a language. You don't get burnout on English. I never said, or nobody has ever said that they got burnout on Japanese, for example. I'm burnt out on what I'm doing learning Japanese. Two different things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, burnout it's a huge thing. I think because more people are okay with admitting it. Because again, YouTube polyglots, we got to fictionalize. Everything's perfect. Everything's, what was it in Sweeney Todd? Tulips and daisies, whatever it is. Everything's just perfectly fine. But it's not. Burnout is okay. Like, I don't know why there's this mentality like it's not okay to burn out. It's okay to burn out. Take a week off and then come back and see what's up.
And I do actually have a question a little bit related to that. For people who have been discouraged for a long period of time and they're looking to get back into language learning, because personally I think prevention is easier than trying to rebuild something that you once had.
Yeah.
How can people who are in that position, like you mentioned about being burnt out, how can they get back into language learning after they've been discouraged specifically because of unmet expectations that were unrealistic to begin with?
What helped me get through? So when I started getting burnout, I noticed that the love of Japanese had started to fade, right? Like it always comes and goes with me, but it had started to fade. Was my cat. It started to like fade, and like, I kept thinking like the biggest thing I don't want to do right now is to force myself to watch a TV show and slowly create, because especially when I have a bad mood towards it anyway, I don't want to create a negative habit. Like that's because once you create that negative habit, man, that is hard to once it becomes something related in your brain to negativity, you're not going to want to do it. So what I did was I literally just took what I would do. Like, I would go through like my Anki flashcards, cause that's so easy. Like, cause even if you don't want to do it, I mean, you can do a flashcard in 5 seconds. Even if you break that up 30 times throughout the day, just get them done just to at least have that. So after I did that for a couple of days, I would then maybe test the waters with something like I would use like Lingo Deer or whatever it may be, just to pop it on. If I didn't feel like finishing a lesson, I'd close it. Look, I'm not here to impress anybody. I'm doing what I feel is right for me. So I don't care if I finish it or not. So I would close or whatever. And then slowly, as I was just going through these things, because I was still interacting with Japanese every day, just not like I normally was. It was just for 5 or 10 minutes here or there, just enough. And what happened just over the course of time, and this is why my routine was so important, because I've been doing that for so long. If I don't interact with Japanese, I don't know how that's going to feel, because I've interacted with Japanese every single day since April 1st. And having that habit, I could slowly interact. Well, what started happening was, every day, it started intriguing me again about the language as when I first got into it. And I was like, or, sometimes you get a weird thing where you go over a flashcard and you're like, I remember struggling with that. And I kind of know that now. Okay, maybe I actually have advanced a little bit. You'll hit something and then you can slowly just kind of start building back into it. I don't even think it's necessarily wrong if you take a ton of time off. I know people who have taken time off of languages and come back and realistically they're stronger than before. I just think the worst thing you can do is force yourself to do something that's going to not be good. Take a week or two off. Like realistically, just take a week or two off and then just come back. Like I know that's going to kind of break the habit and stuff like that. And that's going to be maybe a little bit harder to get back into it. That's why I kept doing it every day, is because I didn't want to just lose that. But take a little bit of time off and come back. Just, don't do like I used to do, which is where I would just be like, okay, well, Japanese is hard. I guess I'm swapping to Spanish now, or swapping to, but I think that's probably the biggest advice I have. Just try to get a little bit until the mystique starts coming back, right?
Mm-hmm. And there was something you mentioned earlier. I don't know if you noticed this, but you said about doing what was right for you. And I think that's very important as well, because these expectations can come from, as we discussed before, other people, and watching them and then kind of taking on what they've accomplished as our own expectations.
Yeah.
And I feel like you lose that uniqueness of your language journey and doing what's right for you when you're paying attention so much to other people.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're into, I feel like most people who watch your channel are probably into language learning, but do what makes you happy, because every person on the planet is going to be mad that you're not learning the language the way they think you should. That's just the way it is. I mean, I get comments on my channel all the time about, oh, I can't believe you're not doing this anymore. Well, I hated that. So here we are. Like, so, I mean, no matter what, like, just do what makes you happy. Like, if it makes you happy watching 8 hours of unintelligible television, do it. Absolutely go for it. If you want to read 7 books a day and look, whatever makes you happy, get to it and do it. Cause I mean, that's what's going to make being happy about what you're doing is going to help you in the long run.
Do you have any additional comments or questions or any points that you would like to make or tips that you would like to give regarding unrealistic expectations?
Yeah. I mean, just, just I mean, I know it sounds like a cliche thing to say, but just set tangible goals that you can gather, not necessarily where you want to be fluency wise, but like I said in the beginning, set a word count that you want to read, or set a count of, I want to do all of my whatever SRS. If you don't use an SRS, this isn't relevant to you, but let's say you use Memrise or Anki or whatever. I want to do 10 or we'll say flashcards. There we go. I want to do 10 flashcards a day, then do 10 flashcards a day, or like just set a goal like that, because that's something you can see every single day that you're doing. Or, hey, I want to watch a YouTube video every day in the language I'm studying, just so I can try to get used to hearing the language. Then do that. Like, that's something that you can see every single day. Saying that you want to pass the N5 or N4 Japanese test is definitely an absolutely possible goal, but I mean, that's a pretty good ways off. So set some stuff that you can see. Cause yeah, once you pass that test, sure, you know that you did it, you get a certificate and everything, but set something that can lead up to that point.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be a part of this interview and speaking about this topic. I know it'll be helpful to many people out there who are struggling with this. So thank you for sharing your personal experience with it as well.
Yeah, hopefully it helps. I'm always really nervous about talking because I did an interview with Aaron, and somebody in the comments was like, "Man, he seems like a really hard guy to interview." So I try to like, I try to like, so hopefully I can help somebody in my ramblings.
You definitely do, and you do on your channel as well. So thank you so much for joining, and I hope this helped everybody. Check out his channel, Seabolt Speaks, and I will also have your social media information in the description box so that people can connect with you as well.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.